My mom faked concern to talk about grandma's life support. Wow, thanks for saying that, she smirked. I totally recorded it. I froze. She planned the whole thing like it was a game. 2 days later, Grandma woke up and laughed in her face. Now my mom's crying about being betrayed. Cute. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to post one of those "my mom is an actual villain" stories, but here we are. Obligatory context. I, 29F, have a complicated family. The only person I've ever felt truly safe with is my grandmother, my mom's mom. She's been my rock since I was a little kid. The kind of woman who will get out of bed at 3 a.m. and meet a taxi barefoot to carry your bags upstairs if you need a place to stay. She's tough, stubborn, hilarious, and completely sane, which makes her a unicorn in this family. My mom, on the other hand, is a raging narcissist. And I don't say that lightly. Think screaming at waiters, throwing hangers at your head, "You ruined my body" kind of narcissist. Between the ages of 13 and 16, I was kicked out of the house 4 times. Not like go stay at a friend's for a night. I mean, literal garbage bags on the porch, locked doors, no way back in. If I hadn't had my grandma, I honestly don't know what would have happened to me. She's the one who made me feel human. When things got so dark I didn't want to be alive anymore, I'd get on a bus, or call a cab if it was really bad, and I'd show up at her building. No matter the hour, she'd buzz me up, make toast and hot chocolate, and let me sleep in her guest room like nothing was wrong. She never asked questions unless I wanted to talk. And the messed up part? She knew exactly what her daughter, my mother, was doing to me. She never defended her, never gaslit me or made excuses, just took me in, gave me love, and told me she wished she'd raised me herself. Fast forward to about 6 years ago, when things took a horrible turn. My grandma collapsed one day at home. She was rushed to the ICU. Not breathing, barely had a heartbeat, total organ failure. It came out of nowhere. Doctors told us to prepare for the worst. Despite not speaking to my mom in years at that point, I ended up back in the family loop during all this. Tragedy has a way of dragging people back into the same orbit. Even if the gravity is toxic, I'd show up to the hospital quietly. I didn't want drama. I just wanted to sit with my grandma, hold her hand, read to her. Meanwhile, my mom was doing the whole wailing and flailing thing in the hallways, crying just loud enough for people to hear, asking, "Why is this happening to me?" After 3 months of life support and no meaningful brain activity, the doctors started hinting that it might be time to consider letting her go. They didn't push it, just asked the family to have that conversation. One afternoon, I got a call from my mom, which was already weird. She was sniffling, doing her classic poor me routine, and said, "What do you think we should do? Should we take her off the machines? If she stops breathing again, do we let her go?" I didn't know how to respond. I sat with it for a long time. Grandma always told me she didn't want to live like a vegetable. She said, "If I ever become just a body in a bed, promise me you'll pull the plug and then go have a steak dinner." She meant it. So I told my mom, carefully, gently, "She's still breathing right now, so I think we hold on to that. But if she crashes again, I don't think she'd want to be brought back. Not like this." And that's when everything changed. There was a pause. Then I heard a click. My mom laughed. Like full-on evil villain laugh. And then she screamed into the phone, "Ha! Got you! I knew it! I fucking knew you wanted to kill her! You're done, you dumb little bitch! I recorded this. You just admitted it. Ha ha ha. The entire inheritance is mine now." I was so stunned I couldn't even move. I just hung up the phone and stared at the wall. 2 days later, my grandma woke up. She didn't remember anything right away, but she was conscious, alert, and asking questions. Over the next few months, she made a slow and miraculous recovery. We helped her learn to walk again. She's been healthy ever since. I didn't bring up the call with my mom. I figured she'd let it go. She did not. She kept visiting my grandma and playing the recording, telling her, "Your precious granddaughter wanted to off you. She wanted to pull the plug and steal your stuff." You know what my grandma said? "Oh, fuck off. I wouldn't want to rot on a goddamn ventilator either." She was right. She told my mom to leave. Twice. Then she called her lawyer. Turns out, if you recover from a near-death coma and then go to 3 independent psych evaluations, you can rewrite your will to make it completely airtight. So she did. And my mom, my narcissist, manipulative, two-faced mom, she is now officially disinherited. She would have gotten something by default if she'd acted like a decent human being. But now, she gets nothing. Not a penny, not a ring, not a dish towel. And I'm not even the only one named in the new will. My grandma gave some to my cousin, her neighbor, a local charity, and even her cat, but not to my mother. Not one thing. Edit. Wow. I didn't expect this to blow up. I'm reading every comment and thank you for all the kindness. I'll write an update soon with more on what happened during the recovery. It got messy. Update 1. Hey again. I wasn't planning on updating so soon, but a few people asked for more context about what happened in the hospital. while my grandma was unconscious. Honestly, it was the beginning of everything going sideways. When I say she was barely alive, I'm not exaggerating. Her lungs were failing, kidneys shutting down, and she wasn't responsive to touch or voice. I remember sitting there holding her hand and saying the dumbest stuff, telling her about a cat I saw on the train, reading her those awful celebrity magazines she loved, playing voice notes from my cousin's kids, just anything. I don't even know if she heard a word of it, but I had to believe she could. Meanwhile, my mom turned the whole situation into a stage. She brought flowers every single day and acted like she was starring in her own tragic Hallmark movie. Full face of makeup, perfume, heels in the ICU, which nurses hated. And this affected whispery voice when she talked to the staff. Like, "Doctor, is there nothing we can do for my poor mother?" It was sickening. And behind the scenes, she was already working on her inheritance fantasy. At first, it was little things. Like, she'd make comments about the apartment. "You know, when this place becomes mine, I'm going to knock out this wall and open it up." Or she'd ask the nurses bizarre questions like, "Is there any kind of paper I need to sign if she doesn't make it?" Then came the day she brought in a real estate brochure. Swear to God. She sat in the waiting room and flipped through it while my grandma was upstairs on a ventilator, circling listings with a pen. I remember her saying, loud enough for me to hear, "Might as well plan ahead." She wouldn't want me living in that dusty old place forever. I was too disgusted to respond. I just left and came back when I knew she'd be gone. At one point, my mom actually started telling people I was just hovering around for the money, which was insane. I was staying at a friend's couch at the time, eating ramen and crying myself to sleep because I genuinely thought I was about to lose the one person who ever loved me unconditionally. Meanwhile, she was making lists of what furniture she wanted to keep. Edit. To answer a few questions. Yes, other family members saw all this too. My aunt, grandma's sister, actually called her out once in the hallway and told her to have some fucking shame. My mom fake cried, ran to the bathroom, and then made up a story later that I sent people to attack her. But here's the worst part, and the part that still messes with me. During this time, my mom started being nice to me, like creepy nice. She'd text me asking how I was holding up, offered to take me to lunch, brought me coffee one day like we were suddenly mother and daughter again. It threw me off completely. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe she was trying? Maybe facing the loss of her mom had snapped something in her? I wanted to believe it. I really did. Which is probably why I picked up the phone when she called that day, crying and asking for advice about what to do next. I thought we were finally not okay, but maybe less broken. And that's exactly when she set the trap. Update 2. So, yeah, let's talk about the call. By this point, my guard was lowered. After weeks of tension, guilt, and being mentally wrecked from hospital visits, I let myself believe my mom might actually want to mend things. She'd been oddly supportive, texting little things like, "Thinking of you today," or "Grandma would be proud of how strong you're being." It felt fake, but I wanted it to be real. When she called that day, her voice was already in performance mode. Quiet, shaky, "I don't know what to do," she said. "They're saying we need to decide. I can't think straight." She asked me to talk through it with her. Said she respected my bond with Grandma and needed help. I won't lie. I cried on that call. I told her I was scared, that I'd been dreaming of Grandma in weird half-memories and waking up sick, that maybe she'd still recover, but if she didn't, I didn't think she'd want to stay on life support forever. That she'd always said she didn't want to be kept alive, just to rot in a bed. My mom was quiet for a second. Then she said, "So, you're saying we should just let her die?" I paused. I remember exactly where I was standing, next to a dumpster outside the hospital because I couldn't get a quiet spot indoors. I had my back against the concrete wall, phone pressed to my ear, trying not to sob. I'm saying, if she crashes again, I don't think we should force her to keep going. That's not what she'd want. And then, click, her whole voice changed. I heard her laughing, like full-on giddy laughter. "Ha! Got it! I fucking knew it. You wanted her dead all along." My stomach dropped. "You're done, bitch. I recorded the whole thing. Everyone's gonna hear this. The whole fucking family. You just said you wanted her to die. I've got it all." Then she started yelling. But I don't even remember what else she said. I just remember the blood pounding in my ears, my vision tunneling. I didn't even hang up. I think I just dropped the phone. She'd planned the whole thing. The fake kindness, the coffee, the guilt trip, all to bait me into saying something she could weaponize. She didn't care about Grandma. She didn't care about me. She just wanted to make sure the will went her way. I didn't tell anyone about the call right away. I couldn't. I was too ashamed, too spun out. I remember thinking, what if she's right? What if it does sound like I wanted her to die? I even thought about calling the hospital and retracting everything I'd ever said. But the thing is, people knew who my mom was. They already had suspicions. I wasn't the only one she was trying to manipulate. Edit. Someone asked if she ever actually played the recording for the hospital or family. She definitely played it for my grandma later. I'll get to that in the next update. It's its own horrible event. For now, just know that after the call, I went no contact again. Blocked her, didn't respond to texts. I kept visiting Grandma quietly and praying she'd wake up. And then, she did. I'll tell you what happened the first time I saw her awake, and how my mom reacted to losing the control she thought she had. Update 3. It happened on a random Tuesday afternoon. I'd been doing the usual routine, sitting by her bed, reading some dumb article about a celebrity's ugly divorce. Grandma loved that trashy gossip. She hadn't moved in weeks. Her breathing was stable, but she was still totally out of it. Then she blinked. At first, I thought I imagined it. I even said out loud, "Okay, I'm officially losing it." But then she blinked again. Her lips twitched. Her hand moved just enough that I felt her fingers brush mine. And then she croaked out, "Why are you reading me that garbage?" I screamed, not even a cool or collected scream, just this choked sound of disbelief and hope and joy. I ran out and found a nurse, babbling like a lunatic. The staff rushed in, checked her vitals, confirmed it. She was responsive. It wasn't some Hollywood-style dramatic awakening. Her voice was a whisper, her eyes barely focused, but she was there, aware, present, alive. I cried so hard my face hurt. When I told my mom, she didn't even react at first. Just said, "Huh, interesting." Then she showed up at the hospital the next day with makeup done, wearing this silk scarf and fake smiling like a goddamn senator's wife. She walked in like she owned the room. "Hi, Mom," she said sweetly. "Do you remember me?" Grandma blinked at her, then looked at me. "What's she doing here? Bless this woman." My mom kind of laughed it off and did the whole, "Oh, she's still confused from the coma" bit. But Grandma was already herself again, grumpy, sharp, and unimpressed. She only tolerated a few minutes of my mom talking before she asked for water and then basically told her to shut up so she could rest. I thought that would be it, that maybe my mom would back off. Instead, she pulled out her ace card. A few days later, I came to visit and found my mom already in the room, sitting on the edge of the bed with her phone in her hand. Grandma looked annoyed. I walked in, and my mom smiled at me. "Oh, perfect timing. I was just showing her your little confession." And she hit play. The recording. That recording. My own voice filled the room, shaky and exhausted, saying those words. "I don't think we should prolong her life by force." My heart stopped. I didn't know whether to scream or leave. I felt like I was being skinned alive. My mom looked triumphant, like she really believed this was her big courtroom finale. And then, Grandma laughed. Not a little chuckle, a full-on raspy belly laugh. She turned to her and said, "You're a fucking idiot." She was right. I don't want to live like some half-dead mummy on tubes and wires. If I croak again, let me croak. You think that makes her a murderer? You should thank her for having more respect for me than you ever did. My mom's face went pale. She tried to say something else, but Grandma literally shushed her and waved her hand like, "Be gone." She never came back after that without being told to leave within 10 minutes. Edit. I saw a few comments asking about whether the recording was legal. I looked into it later. And where we live, it's technically a one-party consent state, which means she could record me legally. But using it to try and manipulate or defame someone? Different story, especially once Grandma was back and vocal. In the next update, I'll go over what happened when Grandma rewrote her will, and the way she made it absolutely ironclad. There's also a story involving my mom trying to sneak something out of Grandma's apartment and getting caught red-handed. Update 4. After Grandma shut down the whole killer granddaughter accusation, my mom started to unravel. She stopped visiting for a bit, probably licking her wounds. But then, one day, I got a frantic call from Grandma. "Did you take my jewelry?" I was stunned. "What? No, of course not." "Well, someone's been in my apartment. My gold necklace is gone, and my papers were moved." I knew immediately who it was. See, during her hospital stay, my mom still had a spare key. Grandma had made copies years ago, just in case. Of course, she never expected her daughter to be the type to snoop through her things while she was in a coma. We checked the building's camera footage. Sure enough, 3 nights before, my mom had shown up around midnight, hoodie on, ducked head, holding a bag. She'd let herself in, stayed about 45 minutes, and left. No visit to Grandma, just straight into the apartment and back out. We confronted her. She denied it at first, then claimed, "I was just making sure everything was secure. I didn't take anything," but the necklace was gone. And some of the documents, insurance stuff, her old will, personal letters, had clearly been rifled through. That was the last straw. Grandma got pissed. Like full old woman fury mode. The kind of cold anger that doesn't yell. It just does. She made 3 calls. 1, her lawyer. 2, her doctor. 3, her therapist. She had herself evaluated by 2 different licensed therapists and 1 physician to certify she was mentally sound. She said, "I want it in writing so that bitch can't say I was confused when I wrote her out." Then she had her lawyer rewrite the will from scratch. Not just a quick update, a full overhaul. My mom got nothing, not a penny. The key was declared unauthorized, and the lawyer filed paperwork stating Grandma no longer granted her any right of access. She gave some to me, some to a cousin who lives out of state, a chunk to a cat rescue she likes, and even left her houseplants to her neighbor, because she actually waters them when I'm gone. She even made a video of herself signing it. No makeup, no script, just her, looking straight into the camera saying, I am of sound mind. I am fully aware of this decision. My daughter is a liar, and I want her nowhere near my legacy. She smiled when she said it. Honestly, it was badass. After the new will was finalized, she changed her locks. She even had a friend install a little security cam inside her apartment, just in case my mom ever tried anything again. Oh, and yes, she reported the break-in. She didn't press charges, though she could have, but she did file a formal police report. Now it's on record. My mom's reaction? She tried to cry her way back in. Sent flowers, voicemails, a card that said, "You don't mean this. You're just confused." Grandma sent it all back unopened. Final update. It's been a few years now since all of this happened. Grandma's still alive, still strong, still the sassiest woman in her apartment building. She has a walking stick she calls the Equalizer, a cat named Soup, and a group of old lady friends she plays low-stakes poker with every Friday. I swear, they're like a geriatric mafia. Me? I moved into my own place a year and a half ago. Got a better job, started therapy. Life isn't perfect, but it's peaceful. And more than anything, it's quiet. No more voicemail bombs. No more guilt texts. No more waking up at 2 a.m. wondering if I should have said something different to someone who was never going to hear me anyway. Grandma and I are closer than ever. We do Sunday brunch most weeks. Nothing fancy, usually eggs and toast. And we just talk. Sometimes about nothing, sometimes about the big stuff. A few months after she updated her will, I finally worked up the courage to ask her, "Did it ever bother you?" What I said, on the call, she just sipped her tea and shrugged. "No, because you were right. I wouldn't want to live like that. And because I know you. You weren't giving up on me. You were doing the hardest thing, telling the truth when it would have been easier to lie." I think I cried harder then than I did when she woke up. As for my mom, she's still around. Not in our lives, but existing somewhere on the periphery. Every now and then someone sees her at a mall or at church trying to sweet-talk her way into someone else's good graces. After the will got changed and she was fully cut out, she had one final stunt. She showed up at Grandma's door with flowers, a Bible, and a story about how she'd found God and realized how much she needed to make amends. Grandma didn't even open the screen door. "You've mistaken peace for permission," she told her. "I've made peace with what you are. That doesn't mean I want you around." Then she walked back into her apartment and left my mom standing there. I was there that day, watching from the hallway, just out of view. My mom looked around for a second, probably checking to see if anyone had seen her rejection scene, and then she dropped the flowers on the steps and walked away. She hasn't come back since. Edit. Since a few of you asked, yes, I got a portion of the inheritance, but honestly, it's not about that. It could have been a single photo album and I'd still feel the same. What I got was recognition. For once, someone stood up and said, "I believe you. You weren't the crazy one." If you're someone who's ever been gaslit by your own parent, I just want to say this. You're not alone. You're not broken. And you don't owe forgiveness to someone who weaponized your love against you. Sometimes justice looks like a lawyer. Sometimes it looks like your grandma laughing in a hospital bed, telling your abuser to fuck off. Thanks for reading, Reddit. Seriously. The way people supported me on these posts meant more than I expected. You reminded me that truth doesn't have to be loud to matter. It just has to be real. Soup, the cat, says hi. Grandma says she's making French toast this weekend and you're all invited, but bring your own forks.